Good morning and welcome into the Oklahomans video studio for another update, Riversport Adventures from the Boathouse District. I'm Dave Morris, joined on this Monday as always, Mike Knopp, Executive Director of the Boathouse, the Oklahoma City Boathouse Foundation, I should say, and Aasim Saleh. He is the Director of Paddlesports, Coach Aasim.
Yeah.
It's great to see you.
How's it going?
Thanks for stopping in. Things are going well here. Another week of talking about all the things happening along the river. And Coach, we'll start with you, Director of Paddlesports. What's that mean? What is your role?
I'm over all paddling operations in the Boathouse District. So we all know what rowing is. I do everything that's not rowing specifically. So it's things that move forward. So kayaks, canoes, stand-up paddleboards, dragon boats, and that's anywhere from our able-bodied stuff to adaptive. And paddling, there's a pretty huge age range, so we legitimately have participants from 8 years old up onto their late 80s, I would say. We have a Wise Dragons dragon boat program, so it's basically, we have a couple of very enthusiastic Wise Dragons boats, and all of our summer camps and spring break camps and youth programs start at 8. So,
favorite age range?
I like the little ones. I think it's like herding wild cats. But
that's what we heard last week from the coach who stuff. He's like, I like the younger ones because they're engaged. They want to learn.
Really engaged.
It's fun for them.
Yeah, they want to learn, and they want to please, and they want to do really well. But they're kind of at this, they're at this pivotal point in their life where you can make significant changes, and they don't all stick around. I mean, a lot of them will, especially when they're that young, they'll go off and play another sport and do different things. But I see them around, and it's kind of cool.
And that's kind of the goal, right? Is to get them into perhaps a boat and then see where they go, but to keep them inspired with this sport.
Yeah.
Mike, we talked last week about the Chesapeake Boathouse had been 11 years open now. He's mentioning all the different moving forward paddle sports. This has expanded a lot.
It has, like Aasim said, we began, the other side of what we do is rowing, and that's where it all began, and we've certainly kind of really expanded into paddle sports and rowing now, and there are a lot of jokes that go around the boathouse about rowing versus paddling and paddle sports. We won't get into them now.
Which one's better? I'm liking the sound of this. Which is the more legit sport in your opinion?
Legit, I don't know. I think they're very different. It's like apples and oranges.
But
I think anything that's played on the same field is going to have rivalries.
Yeah.
I mean, kayaking and rowing, the exact same race courses. All over the world, kayakers and rowers share the same bodies of water, but they're very different. Because in rowing, you have a tendency to start out in a large boat like an 8, and then not as many people move towards singles. Depending on
and 8 being the number of people athletes in the boat.
You're sort of you're what you picture when you think collegiate rowing, the big 8. Whereas in kayaking, it's quite the opposite, where people tend to start in singles, and it's unless they really progress into very much a competitive existence, they'll never be in a team boat. But we race singles, doubles, and 4s, and so like a 4-person kayak is we could pull a water skier. It's a very fast boat, but so kayakers tend to be, I think, a little more autonomous, a little more. They like that. Being an individual but a team kind of feel, whereas rowing from day one, you're very much a unit, typically of 8 or 9.
It is interesting to see the different personalities. Now we add whitewater into the mix, so
and
somebody could do a case study and all the different athletes at the boathouse.
The whitewater kayaker is different from the flatwater kayaker, as the flatwater kayaker is from the rower, and so on.
But it's really great. I mean, that's what makes it special. Is we are a unique environment where we embrace all of these sports. We really try to foster that camaraderie, that that environment where everyone respects the various different interests in sports, but we all get along and we help. Rising tide lifts all ships, and we really believe that in the Boathouse District. So.
Yeah, for sure. And Brian, who you had on last week, I mean, we talk about practice all the time, and we're very much on. I mean, we do nearly everything together at the Boathouse, so
it is again very unique in the world of rowing and paddle sports. But in Oklahoma City, we look at it as as Aasim had said, is we might get a young, a kid that comes in at 8 years old and decides, well, I want to try rowing, and they can do that, and that's really special. Or vice versa, they might come into rowing a little bit older and realize, I think I want to go forward now and try this other sport. So I think it's a unique environment that we've created. So,
are there any sports that you're looking at adding that we don't have down at the river?
Well, I mean, we are going to get more in, now that we have our world-class whitewater center, to do more programming with whitewater youth paddling over time, and that's something that we're working on. But we're also exploring ideas of off-the-water sports like bicycling with the pump track and having a program with that and skateboarding. And so we're going to see where that goes. But yeah, those are the kind of things we're looking at. So.
Very good. We're chatting with Mike Knopp. He's the executive director of the Oklahoma City Boathouse Foundation. Said it right that time.
Yeah.
Director of Paddlesports, Aasim Saleh. Where are you from?
I'm from Seattle, Washington.
And how long have you been here in Oklahoma
That'll
City?
be 6 years, about a few weeks ago.
What brought you from Seattle to Oklahoma City?
Well, I was actually lucky enough, I guess in the winter of 2010, Mike at the time was searching for somebody to help develop and grow the paddle sports here in Oklahoma City. And I was lucky enough to get the position, so I moved here to do what I do.
And what were you doing in Seattle?
I was still coaching, but I was at my home club. So this is the club I grew up at, and so I was sort of more of a giving back type thing. And I was going to school and working for a property management company. So I had like a normal job, and then I coached more as a passionate kind of thing. So.
We talked about the youngsters and that you like coaching them because of their energy. At what age did you get exposed to the sport and
I
start?
didn't start till I was 13. So,
Is that old by?
No, that's pretty normal.
Okay.
We start kids a little bit younger here in Oklahoma City just because we want to allow anybody who wants to paddle to paddle. So we set our boundaries more at safety than at sort of conventional. And so I was pretty average as I started, 12, 13, just at my local lake near where I grew up in Seattle.
So now when the athletes come in for the various events, you're like the Oklahoma City native. You're pointing out, here's where you need to go.
Yes. No, I really like Oklahoma City. I think I've become, considering I'm a transplant, I feel like I'm a constant advocate and sometimes defender of Oklahoma City because I do really like it and I think it's great. And I think that we have a new intern coming in a few weeks, and I was telling him he's going to be staying in our athlete housing over by Automobile Alley, and I'm like, this is a very nice area to be staying as a young college student.
No kidding.
In this area. I mean, it's great, and so I really like Midtown. I bought a house here. I really like Oklahoma City. I think it's cool.
Cool. So you have the local role here as director of paddle sports, but you also have a national role as well.
Yes, I'm the chairman of the board of directors for the Sprint Coaches Association, which is basically a body of coaches that in our sport, just because we're a small Olympic sport, a lot of the workforce tends to be volunteer to some extent, and so we determine things like where events are, and we select teams internationally. For example, I've been lucky enough the last 3 years to be the head coach for the Olympic Hopes team, which is basically approximately the age group world championships for 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds, and 17-year-olds. And so last year we were in Hungary with a few athletes from Oklahoma City, actually. So that was really cool. It was the first time I'd been on that trip where I had kids from Oklahoma City that had gotten fast enough that I actually qualified to get to go to Hungary. So we had a few athletes that got to go over and compete, which was really cool. And this year it's in the Czech Republic, I think. So
I'm sure that's beautiful as well.
Yes, yeah, it's different for sure.
I think that's one of the things we really emphasize here. It's such a unique opportunity for kids in Oklahoma City to have this Olympic sport that they can get involved in, and frankly, to do it in a place that has the facilities and the coaching that we have. I mean, the ladder up to the top is really, compared to other sports, not as great. And the fact that you can travel the world, if you get involved here. You heard these kids from Oklahoma City.
I've seen the world kayaking. I've only been out of the country maybe once or twice in my life on recreational, but I've been all over paddling. And the other really cool thing about paddling is, which is different than a lot of sports, is, and I think Mike mentioned this last week with rowing, but we have no bench, obviously, in kayaking also. But the cool thing about kayaking is we mix really well. Like right now we have, I think, 3 national champions that are, at practice every single day, best kids in the country at what they do. We mix that with just kids that want to get in the water and have fun. Kids that want to get in the water and have fitness, and kids that maybe never saw themselves as athletes, but given a chance in a unique sport, they can become very athletic and very successful. And in kayaking, also, size is sort of irrelevant because just because the way our sport works, you can be short, you can be tall, you can be, kind of anybody can do well at it. But the key is that we let our kids decide how well they want to be. We had a group of athletes went down to Texas and trained over the entire holiday, twice a day, every single day in warmer water because they really want to get at it. And we have kids that just want to come down and have fun and goof around a little bit. So and we serve essentially everyone in the same exact way. So
Had some guests in from out of town, and it's interesting when you look over there at the horizon, you're like, wow, what is that over there? And you see the signs on the highway that it's an Olympic training site. for the Olympians and the Paralympians, and you see the boathouses along there, and you explain it's a nice flat stretch of a river. It gets that wow response. You also had some national exposure over the weekend on the Travel Channel.
We sure did on Extreme Water Parks. It was on last night. And
did you realize you were building an extreme water park?
Well, maybe not in that way. When you look at the other parks that they profile on there, to be in that category, it was pretty cool though. I mean, really great exposure. I think the other facility that they showcased was like in Norway on the same show. So the fact that we were, right up there, and I think Oklahoma City showed really well. It was a really great representation of the world-class nature of our venue and really Oklahoma City in general, and the people who they showed a group of people go through the experience in whitewater rafting and then on to belly axe, which is kind of a new side of paddle sports, which is basically what it sounds like. You're on a kayak, but you're on your belly and you're paddling with your hands, and so we're kind of helping launch that here in Oklahoma City, and so they showed that as well. And the participants had a blast, and I think it's going to be great exposure for us.
You see the national exposure that we get here in the Boathouse District. Is there anything that you always look for when you see these stories? Okay, I know there's 5 things that's going to show up here just because that's...
You just know that the Dust Bowl will be mentioned 1 or 2 times, and Grapes of Wrath, and maybe the expanse of the plains, and then they move on to what the story is all about, and that's fine. I mean, because it really does. I think in this case it showed how unique and innovative the city thinks in the way that we created this project, and I think that side of it also was really great. So
the fact that it's unique in an urban setting downtown.
That's really what they
showcase
that. Yeah.
Coach, we'll bring it back to you real fast. Some of the other things you do is, as we mentioned, the healthy lifestyles. You're involved in teaching elementary schools, PE, things like that.
Yeah, so the Boathouse District, we're heavily involved in local elementary schools and middle schools and high schools also. But what I do a lot of in the springtime is I basically go from school to school to school, and we teach kids on both rowing machines and kayaking machines in their regular everyday PE classes. So last year, I guessed that I physically taught about 15,000 kids how to row or kayak. That's just me, and we have other people doing this also. And so we touch an enormous amount of kids, and I'll start in I think 2 weeks. I have my first school visit, and so I'll go for almost 3 months straight from school to school to school. And it's a nice time of year because for us it's a little bit slow. That as we get closer to spring break and spring break camps, and paddle sports and rowing are so new in Oklahoma. I sometimes ask myself, how else would people know if we don't go out and reach the kids or reach the families directly?
Makes sense. All right, very good. He is Aasim Saleh, Director of Paddlesports. Mike Knopp, Executive Director of the Oklahoma City Boathouse Foundation. The stuff we mentioned, more information can be found on the website at riversportokc.com. Guys, as always, thanks for stopping in. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Dave.